have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what can I do today to be successful, not just now, but for the rest of my life? If you haven't, or if you have, we have a few tips for you.
All right, welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited about what we're gonna be talking about today because we're talking about success, and there are some very practical things that we can begin to start doing right now that we started a long time ago doing.
Disclaimer, it's not get famous overnight.
Exactly, it's not get 100,000 Instagram followers or a TikTok, go viral.
Good for you if you're there, but you know, there's actual practices that you even taught me when we first got married. So I'm excited for you to get to share with the channel fam.
Yeah, these are things that are not the sexy things to be doing, but they're the things that are going to set you up financially, and just to make sure that whatever you are being given, that you're going to be a good steward over. I think that's what we have always tried to live our life based off of, is that if God gives us finances, if God gives us something, it gives us the opportunity to be a good steward. All right, so first practical step for success that you can start right now, whether you're in your teens or 20s, or even if you're 30s.
$5 or $5,000.
Yeah, wherever you are in your life, this is good steps to start taking right now, is to create a budget. So I remember, this is not the most sexy thing, but when I was a 18-year-old coming out of high school, my dad sat me down and he walked me through how to create a budget. And he said, how much are you gonna be making? And I was making $12,000 a year. At the time, that seemed like a lot of
Not a month.
That was a year. At the time, that seemed like a lot of money though to me, because I was coming straight out of high school. I had only worked a caddying job for most of my, summers that I did. And I was like, this is great, I've got money. But then when I sat down and did a budget, I started realizing how much my money is gonna go to rent and things like that. And so creating a budget that is not something that is like, hey, I've got all this free space to work with, but understand like, hey, how much do you actually spend per month and how much do you have coming in? And always going off of the 10-10-80 rule. It means you save 10% of your money that's coming in, you give 10%, so that's normally your tithe that goes into the church, and then you live off of 80%. I remember when we first got married, I set up a budget for us, and I remember every single month I would write down on the piece of paper our rent, our insurance, our groceries, our gas. I'd write out all that stuff, and then when we would spend money, I would come back to that piece of paper and I would just write down, hey, this is how much we spent, and I would put it in the correct category.
Which wasn't fun for me, if we're honest, when we first got married, because it does feel a little rigid, especially when you're in your 20s and you're like, I just been through school and college, like I want to get a nice place, I want to have fun. And I think the benefit is that you don't see when you first start doing that, which I didn't see, is doing this budgeting helps you do those other things better, like helps you get a better home and helps you have more fun. So it's the investment even of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And you can create space within that budget for there's things that you want to do. Like we have a miscellaneous portion where it's like, it's miscellaneous is we can spend money on whatever that needs to be. And then there's also personal spending. Like Christian gets $100 personal spending every single month. I get 50. And whatever we want to buy with that money, the other person doesn't have a say in that. Like it's their personal money. They can spend it on whatever they want. And so we created that, and that will allow you to be able to even see, hey, I overspent on groceries, or I underspent.
I spent $100 on coffee this month.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a big thing too, is that mocha effect, the latte effect that they call, where your that $5 coffee is going to add up over time. And so creating that space to be able to know, hey, this is where my money is actually going, and this is how much money I'm saving, is really beneficial, especially if you get started as you're young. But regardless of your age, it's going to be extremely, or income, it's going to be really beneficial to you.
I mean, that just makes me think of the verse, and it says, whoever's faithful with little is faithful with much, or can receive much. I'll put the right verse right here. Sorry, it's the morning. But I think that practice comes into play of, we think, okay, if I don't have enough, I need to enjoy it or get the most out of my money. But I think it's realizing, hey, this is a seed that we get to invest and grow, and not just invest, like put it in the stock market or in Bitcoin. Because that's a little fragile. That's a whole nother video. But doing it in a way where like I'm investing in myself and investing in my future, and That was a game changer when you taught me that thing.
Yeah, and I think I've always told Christian, like, look, it might be uncomfortable for this season of time, like, and it was uncomfortable for our first year of our marriage, but it did give us the freedom to be able to do these things in the future that we've been able to. Yes, we're not like wealthy beyond belief, but we are well off for our age, and that's been truly a blessing from God.
Yeah, which actually paints the next step really well. So the second step is to not compare. Now, this is something we talk about in all these other areas, but I think we can't compare our finances or what our life season or status looks like. And I'll say that primarily because we do see people that are overnight successes, but you don't see the amount of time, investment, opportunity, like time is even an investment, but you don't see what's gone into that. Or on the other hand, you see people that may carry designer handbags and travel a lot, but they actually have no money in the bank. And then even for us, we just got back from Italy, but that's because our first 2 anniversaries, we stayed at like families' homes, and we really didn't go anywhere luxurious, but we made the most out of those times, and that allowed us to be able to go to Italy. And so it's the thing you see behind the scenes where you can't compare because you're not seeing the full story.
Yeah.
And also, I saw a video the other day where it's people that get out of college are living in penthouses, making fun of people with roommates, and even your story, like you lived with your parents for a little bit after college.
For like 4 years.
Which, if I'm honest, when we were dating, I was like, oh, really? Okay. But then he said, yeah, I've done all that to save this much, and actually I'm setting us up well going into marriage. And I was like, I don't care if you live with your parents, like, you're smart.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another thing is wisdom doesn't always look like what the world looks like. It'll cause you to do different things. You know, maybe you aren't living with your parents, you can't afford something, but just making sure you're not comparing, so you're not limiting even like what God's speaking to you in your finances.
Yeah, and I think these are good things. Like, I mean, even with my dad, when I was living with him, he set it up since like basically the month after I got out of high school, he started charging us rent because he was still instilling into us like, hey, these are the things, the practice of understanding that you're going to have to budget. You're going to have to do things that are, you know, the typical things that you got to do in life, but don't compare yourself to other people in those situations. And I watched as many of my friends went off and found themselves in debt due to college, and they ended up having to move back in with their parents because they were in so much debt. And so just figuring out what's working for you and sticking to that and not comparing it to others.
You skip the debt stage.
Yeah,
You're
don't
like,
feel
I'm
like
gonna go ahead and move in with them so I don't get in debt. I save money.
Yeah, don't feel like, hey,
I
I saw this couple go on an amazing trip, so I need to go on this amazing trip. No.
And even on that trip, we budgeted for the trip. It wasn't like, we're gonna go to Italy. It's
yeah, we used tons of points as well that we had collected over the years and things like that. So we budgeted it all out to make it work and not be something that's going to hurt us in the long run.
Yeah, but we still enjoy it. It's just, it's that balance. So number 2, don't compare.
Yeah. Number 3 is start investing right now. So regardless of how old you are, or how young you are, start investing, and how much, I mean, regardless of how much you even have, start investing right now. And so when I'm saying investing, I am not saying go buy Bitcoin or go buy cryptocurrency. You know, that might be a great investment for you. Personally, I don't love stocks because I don't like watching the ups and downs. There's people who love that and they live for that. But for me, I have found that honestly just investing into something that is like a mutual fund or an IRA or a 401k early on in your life will begin to accumulate. I saw a video the other day and there was a guy talking about, and he said, hey, I started when I was 20 and I started investing $100. And he said there was another guy started when he was in his 30s and he started investing $250 to try to catch up to what I had been already investing. And he said, by the time we both retired, I had like $1.8 million or something like that saved up in his 401k. And the other guy who started investing when he was in his 30s, $250 only had $800,000. And it was because of the accumulation that the money gets. I mean, I think it's Albert Einstein who said it's like the 8th wonder in the world is compound interest, like the amazing, just whatever happens with that, where your money just continues to grow. And since I was 19, I have invested, I think it's been about $150 at least a month into a Roth IRA, which I believed I actually rolled it over into a 401k.
Look, this is all going over my head too. If you don't understand, good tips.
Yeah, and if you don't understand this, like, reach out to someone that is going to help you. Like, go reach out to, if it could be Fidelity, like just an investment firm that wants to set you up well, that you can have this conversation and they will explain it. They'll map it all out. When I was 19 years old, I was a silly teenager that did not know any of this, but what I did know is that I just needed to start investing right away. And I'm not going to see some of that return for, 20 plus years, but I know that it's going to continue to keep compounding, and I'm going to be very grateful for it someday. And it's also teaching me how to save. And
it's a good bank for you. I think that's an idea too. I always thought the more money you have in the bank, the richer you are. And there's just this whole other world of, leveraging and investing and seeing, okay, well, I'm only getting 100 a month instead of having 50,000 right now, but it's like the accumulation. So I think that's really important. And this also leads into the next tip, and that's invest in yourself. So part of what Arden's saying is, yes, invest your money, but even investing in the knowledge of how to use your money. So for us, we have a masterclass subscription that we share with a couple other friends to save money per month. But in that, I'm going through classes right now that invest in me. Like, I'm using my money to invest in my future as well. So $3 a month, I think, is what we pay for our masterclass because we split it up. But that's giving me insight. It's bettering my skill set. And I think knowing how to invest. So maybe that is community college. Maybe that is courses. It's even just your time of like sitting with someone that's a mentor for you, whether that's spiritual or you can learn a trade or a skill set from them. The good thing is there are so many routes, I think more than ever, that you can use to invest in yourself and use your money. Hey, maybe I'm not going shopping every weekend or going to every single concert that happens. Look, we live in Nashville. There's so many concerts. I get it. It's fun. But maybe I'm not doing that every weekend. Maybe one weekend I'm going to a class or I'm doing something that's going to set me up even better in the long run. And I went to a university. I went to a community college first. My dad's advice, I didn't love it again at the time, but taking in wisdom and knowing I'm getting the skill set, I can do it this way. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, but baby steps, even just investing in you. One, because you're worth it, and two, it helps you be more successful.
Yeah, and something that you even said too that I think you can go more into is finding a mentor. Like finding something that you're like, hey, you have set up passive income, and I really appreciate how you've done that, and I want to learn how you did that. And so finding some time, it's going to cost you a $5 coffee, but finding time to sit down and pick someone's brain, ask them, hey, what has been the books that you would recommend me reading? What have been the podcasts that you're listening to? I mean, oftentimes these people that are successful, they are looking for people that they can pour into. And so looking for those people that are in the areas that you want to do something in the future. I mean, I had those conversations with my brothers, I still have those conversations with our board member, my dad, and I will have those conversations and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? How can I be involved? Or what can I do? What resources can I find that will help me do that? And so finding that mentor in your life that is going to help you is I mean, honestly, that's priceless right there.
And the last step to be successful, which you can do this your whole life, again, no matter how much you have in the bank, how much you're spending or how much you're budgeting, is to examine the risk versus the benefit. So when I first started doing our personal spending and I had $100, I would go somewhere with Arden. Sometimes he'd come shopping with me. And I'd look at something and I'd say, okay, what's the risk versus the benefit? And he'd say, well, how much are you going to wear that shirt? Like, for example, if you're going to get a $75 shirt, which for me is just a little expensive to think about, that means I'll only have, $25 left for my personal spending. Like, is it worth it? And this can feel a little linear or rigid, but it does help you make sure, like, hey, do I really want this, or is this an impulse buy? Yeah. If I go and spend, I would know people in high school that would spend $60 in high school on alcohol. Yeah. And I'm like, one, you're never going to see that money again. You're going to feel bad from it. Yeah. And then you're just, especially when you're in high school, that's a lot of money. Yeah. And so it's like, what kind of purchases are we making? And, hopefully you're not going out and spending $60 on alcohol in high school. If so, let's talk about that. But no matter what it is, even for our car purchase, we just sold my car and thankfully we were able to make money off of it. Last time we bought a car, we were like, hey, we're only gonna spend this much, like that's all we can do. Now we're thinking, hey, we should get a better, bigger payment, but we're still gonna evaluate, like, hey, let's compare and contrast. Let's evaluate what is the benefit and the risk of paying too much or spending not enough and buying something lesser. So it's very much a dance, but it helps you.
Don't live for the, the instant impulse, like
instant
gratification of a buy. Like, just really think about your life as a whole and like, hey, is this going to get me ultimately where I want to go? Because there's a lot of other things that you can do. Like, I mean, we give you 5 tips that are helpful in our life that we found, hey, as we've gotten started, this has been really good and it set us up very well to be able to be successful at our age, where, like I said before, success looks different for everyone, but we think we're doing well off for ourselves, where we've been able to give. And I think that's been our biggest heart, is like, we want to give out of our finances. We don't do this just to have, a comfortable life or anything like that. If God told us to give everything that we had away tomorrow, we would do that. But we've done this so that we can live from this place of just graciousness, where we can sow into ministries, we can sow into people and just live out of that place. But there's also, like I said, there's a lot of other things that you can be doing. Like there can be some side hustles, things that you can be doing, like going and buying stuff from Marshalls and reselling it. Like there's little things that you could be doing that is also going to help you be successful. But I think these are good practical things to begin to start doing right now.
And if you just want like, hey, you guys are awesome, but we want some wisdom on this, the 2 verses that you should just keep in mind in this is, one, the prodigal son. I mean, he was so antsy to go and make a name for himself, to go and have fun, that he wasted everything. And in the end, there was grace for it, but it just wasn't the best move for him to make. And then 2, there's the parable of the talents and the people that would invest and they would be wise and they wouldn't live from this mindset of fear to make a move, but they would go forth in wisdom.
If you guys found this all to be helpful and you guys are not already subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Make sure that you guys subscribed. And if you guys did like this content, let us know if you have any questions around it. So leave it a comment down below. If there's like, hey, I want to know more about this budgeting or stuff like that.
Apps or websites.
Yeah, let us know. We would love to try to help out however we can. We can also do more videos about this in the future. So make sure that you leave those comments below. We love hearing from you guys. And until next time.